We know that you wanted to be at the Fight, Laugh, Feast conference, but you can't come all the days. We have a day pass where you can come on Saturday, where you get to hear great speakers like Pastor Doug Wilson, Pastor Jared Longshore, Pastor Toby Sumter, Cross Politics Live Show with Jason Whitlock and Megan Basham. Join us for the Sabbath Feast, where we get to laugh with comedian John Branyan, all for the low, low price of $99. Sign up for the day pass, flfnetwork.com. Looking forward to seeing you there at the conference.
Hey y'all, welcome to Cross Politics on the Fight, Laugh, Feast Network. It is Tuesday, isn't it?
Got it right.
Tuesday, Pastor Toby.
As far as you know.
And this one's Chalk Knox, and
Look
I'm
at
the
you,
water boy.
look
I got
at
them all
you.
right.
You done messed up, AA Ron!
You don't know what's coming in 2024, but we have exclusive kind of footage.
Oh.
So, is it going to be Trump Biden going at it in 2024? Well, they sat down for about 2 minutes with each other, and we got exclusive footage on this right now.
We created the greatest economy in the history of our country.
Well, first of all, let's put this in perspective.
The unemployment numbers for African Americans, for Asian Americans, for Hispanic Americans, virtually every number was the best.
Inflation rate month to month was just an inch.
We
Hardly
had the
at all.
best stock market price ever.
I got that. But guess what we are? We're in a position where for the last several months it hasn't spiked.
You know what? She deleted 33,000 emails.
How that could possibly happen. How anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? By that I mean names of people who helped or et cetera. And it's just totally irresponsible.
I think it's disgraceful what she's done.
I mean,
do.
honest to God, that's all I
The
think.
biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign.
I haven't, look.
They spied on my campaign, they got caught.
Don't.
And then they went much further than that, and they got caught.
Yes.
It was our Justice Department.
Yes.
It was Obama and Biden.
It's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. So wrong.
I think what happened was disgraceful. Should never have happened.
Think about that.
Should never have happened.
Think of how that has changed everything.
What kind of ice cream? What flavor ice cream do you have?
I think I would tell you if I knew exactly what it would be. Of course I'm not going to
You
tell
just come in here with that negative attitude.
you. And it's much too early to make that kind of decision.
And when I finish, this country will be in a position like it hasn't been maybe ever.
I'm more optimistic than I've been in a long time.
I want this to happen so
The
bad.
internet wins the day again.
Whoever
Okay.
made that is brilliant.
Yeah.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word did not stay in heaven. The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory of the Father, full of grace and truth. Grace and truth became flesh. The Word became flesh. The story of God's grace became flesh. And it is that word, that truth, that story that will fill the world. That's why this year's Fight, Laugh, Feast conference is in Knoxville, Tennessee, on lies, propaganda, storytelling, and the serrated edge. The word is a sword. The word is our glory. So join us October 6th through the 8th as we fight, laugh, and feast with beer and psalms. Speakers including Pastor Doug Wilson, George Gilder, Ben Merkel, Jared Longshore. I will be there. Chalk Knox will be doing a roundtable with the Wilsons and Merkels on why stories are so potent for building family cultures that win. All culminating in a live show with Megan Basham and Jason Whitlock, talking lies and journalism, and a Sabbath feast and comedian
Yes.
John Branyan.
Yes. And others.
We
And
also
others.
just announced a one-day Saturday-only pass for just $99. If you,
glory.
For some reason, you can't make it to the whole conference, which would be really sad, but you can get it for $99, just a Saturday pass. Find out more, register, become a vendor at fightlaughfeast.com.
Will there be one? Don't you want to come? Come right now. Go to fightlaughfeast.com and come to the conference and spend that time. I just love this organ. With us, we'd love to see you there. There's jumpy castles for the kids. Did we mention that part? Okay.
So when we report the news, sometimes it's hard to stay up on the Biden administration communication breakdown.
Sometimes it's hard.
Sometimes. on
We've
60
had to
Minutes.
hire people.
Yesterday we had to hire
There are
people.
two things.
Yes. One. And on Biden was on 60 Minutes on Sunday night, and he declared
With Trump, apparently.
He declared the pandemic was over on Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently, CNN reported this, that the White House and Biden are in disagreement that the pandemic's not over.
Oh.
So Biden reports that it's over on 60 Minutes on Sunday night. And
Don't
then
we
on
have
Monday,
a clip of that just so people can understand?
Are we going to replay that
This
clip?
is what happened
Are we going to replay that
on
clip?
Meet the
All
Press.
right.
Or was it Meet the Press or 60 Minutes?
60 Minutes,
Yeah.
Mr. President, first Detroit Auto Show in 3 years.
Yeah.
Is the pandemic over?
The pandemic is over. We still have a problem with COVID. We're still doing a lot of work on it. But the pandemic is over. If you notice, no one's wearing masks. Everybody seems to be in pretty good shape. And so I think it's changing, and I think this is a perfect example of it.
Remember I said this when we played this yesterday. I was like, all the aides are like, no. Somebody's mad at the aides. We told you to tell them not to say this.
Yeah, right.
Probably CNN who said this.
So CNN's got a headline out. And this is a great response by Stephen Miller. He said, he tweeted
He's
out the
not
headline.
in charge.
He is not in charge.
White House says COVID-19 policy unchanged despite Biden's comments that the pandemic is over.
Yeah.
Now, this is the reason for this is that there's a lot of pandemic money that's still out there, emergency money,
Right.
that they don't have their hands on if the reality is true that the pandemic is over.
Right.
And they still have plans for some of that money to spend it and do things with it. And if the
Right.
pandemic is over, that means that all the policies now have to change. So what they want to make sure is clear is that, hey, that money we promised y'all, it's still going to come. Biden's just, you know how he is. We going to put it out through CNN that it's not over and they'll fix everything.
Yeah.
And this comes, I mean, so in my depositions, as I'm suing the
You always
city.
got to make this about you.
Oh, well,
Also,
I got
Gabe
to
is
pull,
from Texas.
And he got
I got
arrested.
to pull all the email records. And I can't talk over that song. It's a sacred song. I got email records from the police with legislators and the police with Boise talking about police regarding the pandemic here locally, saying if we declare, if the city council decides that the emergency over, then we're going to forfeit, I think it's something like $114 million here in the state of Idaho. So the police were emailing here locally.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. I got the email.
Right.
So if our city council was to declare that the pandemic was over,
I think they're actually referring to the governor.
The governor,
I'm
okay.
bringing up, as I'm trying to remember.
make sure your lawyer wants you to get this right.
But but basically, if the state, because remember,
Governor Little had us in a state of emergency till like last spring, right before the primaries.
right, and then he called legislative session back in, and the legislators during that session, this is what is all connected to now. I'm remembering during that session. Legislative session was going to try to undo the
His
emergency
emergency
orders, and they
orders from
couldn't
him,
because of the legality of what that legislative session was about. That emergency legislative session was about, and that's what the internal emails were discussing. If Brad Little,
if the legislature had overturned it, or if they had been able
we
to,
forfeited $114 million.
Oh yeah, well,
And so that was happening all over across
Right.
the U.S. But
sure.
I just remember kind of running in that to my case here, where it's like, the cops were actually not wanting to forfeit the money either.
right. Yeah, they want the money.
and
Right.
it's like,
So we talk about that's what we call perverse incentives.
yeah,
Right. To continue lockdowns because we have a fake, a pandemic or whatever,
Yep.
whatever people want to call it.
Yep.
And
$114 million.
And people are getting arrested
Yep.
and fined
Yep.
and harassed on the streets and in their businesses because we need to get more money.
You know what, man? But that's just the fact you ain't had no good home training. Like your daddy ain't love you. Your mama ain't love you because they've told you it's okay to accept bribes. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of people who've had bad parents
Right. Yeah.
that they are saying, you know what, this is how let's use this perverse moment to capture as much money as we possibly can.
Right.
Like when you honor your parents, this is part of what's inside of the fifth commandment, right? When you honor your parents, is to understand not to take bribes, to treat one honestly and to respect the authorities, right?
Doing right,
Doing
no
right.
matter what.
No, exactly.
Right.
So nobody stepped up and said, man, that is wrong. That is people who've worked hard for that money. Those people don't make a lot of money here.
Yeah.
Why would we take that money and try and get it all for? That's ridiculous. It's horrible.
Right.
I remember in 2015 when Trump was running for office and really started harping on build the wall in 2015.
Yep.
That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And-
Remember we had Aveda King on? She was like, I'm for building that wall.
She said, "Remember Nehemiah?"
Yeah, he built that wall with a sword and shovel.
Like, okay.
I
I'll take
remember
her still. I'll say.
Yeah.
student groups at Washington State University. They brought a bunch of cardboard bricks and built a wall outside at Washington State University,
really?
kind of in support of President Trump. Kind of making a point.
I just
on
remember
campus.
the Logos students that year, randomly that senior class, they would just start chanting "Build the Wall" in their classroom. And I don't even, and the teachers were like, we don't know what, they would just randomly, they would just start
It
chanting,
just started.
"Build the wall. Build the wall."
Out of nowhere.
And they were like, "What are you doing?" And then they'd stop and they were done. But they,
That's an inside joke that they
yeah,
had. I want to know
yeah,
that.
yeah.
If you went to Logos
But,
that year, I
yeah,
want to know what that joke
But I was
was.
teaching an elective that year, and I would hear it across, down the hallway.
that
There
is
the
funny.
seniors go again. But
There must be a substitute teacher in that classroom.
no, it was Mrs. Merkel. And she would laugh about it too. She was like, "I have no idea. I have
She
no idea."
probably started that whole thing. She's like, I don't know what they're doing.
Chant this. And so I remember when Trump was bringing up, the whole build the wall thing and the immigration, and I didn't quite understand how bad it was,
Right.
Because I mean, our governments hadn't really done much to deal with it,
Right.
and the media wasn't really reporting on it. So somehow Trump had tapped into something that everybody knew was wrong and
That's
bad
Especially like along the southern
The
states.
border
around the
states.
southern border,
states, yeah.
and he was winning. He was growing in ratings because of that.
Right.
And no other politician was really touching it the way he was touching it. And then now we have the pandemic that kind of came along and really exposed a lot more of this, because what the pandemic actually did is it actually started pushing more illegal immigration.
Right.
Because people are desperate for food,
Because the
jobs.
lockdowns, the supply chain breakups,
right.
and everything else, countries, and we talked about this during the pandemic for America.
Yeah.
The people that were being crushed were the people at the bottom of the of the supply chain.
That's right.
It's the barbers and the cosmetologists and the people who have just mom
And
and
the
pop
Cubans
stores.
and the Nicaraguans.
Exactly.
And
And so how much more so
That's right.
outside the
Supply chain,
states?
yeah.
That's right.
Same thing. And so it's squeezing people up into the states.
So it's interesting to me that Bill Clinton was on, was it Meet the Press? Was it?
I don't remember what he was on, yeah.
He's on something. And he was talking about
That's Texasism.
And so, well, listen to this Bill Clinton clip talking about immigration.
The largest number of refugees since World War II because of Syria and now Ukraine and other problems in the middle. What happened in Venezuela had more than 2 million refugees pouring into first Colombia and then to nearby countries, has created unprecedented new challenges. And meanwhile, it provides opportunities for stunts like Governor Abbott sending his refugees to some place that he thinks is advocating for a broad-minded policy it doesn't have to live with. And then Governor DeSantis sending those people to Martha's Vineyard was amazing. That may come back to haunt him a little bit.
Look at that face. Look at that. Look at that. Bill Clinton, I think he knew the genius of what
DeSantis was doing.
did and how he was responding
sort of.
in a kind of a smile.
Right.
And what's happened there.
There isn't a better political mind to me than Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Like, they are brilliant. Like, they get it. They know how to play the game.
They know how to get away with killing
They know-
people. They know how to get away with getting whitewashing, bleaching hard drives.
Deleting emails.
When they're on an island they ain't supposed to be on.
They got away with it all.
You're right. He absolutely
Not in front of
saw
God,
the play.
though.
Yeah,
You
that's
haven't saw
right.
the play. You know, Gabe, you're actually making a really good point. It's funny because I think that immigration and legal immigrants, that's been a situation going on since I can remember. You go back, I got a book that's talking about this in the 50s and how it was a problem. And they were expecting, over the next couple of years, it'd be 2 million. And this is the first time now we're hitting 2 million
this year.
in just
And the
1
year's
year.
not even over.
And the year's not even over yet. That's right.
Yep.
And I never thought about the idea that the supply chain, how it would affect other countries in that same way. I knew it would affect ours, but we still seeing the breaks of it right now. But I didn't think about the fact that, wait a second, if a country is already wobbling and then you disrupt the work and the supply chain there, you're just going to collapse that company, that country.
Right.
Where are those people now going to find work, and what are they going to do? Like, no one thought about them. Like, no one really thought about them. And well, now all of them have rushed. What is it? We see 200,000 leaving
Cuba. Uh-huh.
right? And
Well, Bill Clinton mentions Cuba, Nicaragua, and
Venezuela,
Right. Yep.
and that are all flooding here. And there is a political. I've said this before on the show. I haven't been too excited about what Ron DeSantis and Abbott are doing. I know I see the political play in it, but I got to tell you, it's actually working. It's exposing.
Well, it's everybody's talking about it.
Right.
I mean, before
That's so
Trump,
right.
no one was talking about it.
That's so true.
And then everybody's like, build the wall. That's dumb. That's retarded. And then now there's piling. They haven't stopped.
Lori Lightfoot in Chicago.
Everybody's talking about
She's
it.
like, hey, we
need-
need assistance
You're
in the
gonna meet.
feds.
You're gonna meet.
We're meeting with everybody in Washington. You got the mayor, Eric, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Mayor Eric in New York.
New York.
He's sitting here saying,
Tailored suit, Eric.
oh man, he is sharp. He's
gay sharp.
Dripology.
I was gonna say it, but you right.
I think the appropriate term is queer sharp.
Yeah, which I don't like, but anyway. But when he's talking about, well, we're thinking about, and considering what it looks like to put him on boats.
Yeah.
Boy, that's just politically and publicly. That's kind of like, wait, you want to take?
You mean like the Middle Passage?
He's like temporarily host him on boat. Sure. You try to get me on a boat. I ain't going no boat. You ain't get me on no boat. Yeah.
Knox is like,
They gonna have a time with me. But it's hilarious.
I read about this.
Yeah, I'm trying to do this with Lincoln. I know what y'all doing. But it's hilarious. He's exposing the fact that they really don't have any answers either. We don't have the resources. Oh, okay. Now, so that's really interesting. But I was thinking, okay, so Pastor, let's say that somehow you get 50 illegal immigrants that show up at your church doorstep.
Yeah.
And you have to deal with, you come to church that morning and you're doing your work and you're like, the government leaves you a nice little letter saying we dropped off 50 illegal immigrants at your church. Have fun. Thank you. Goodbye. Yeah. And your response to this situation is?
Well, I'd welcome all to church. Hey, we're having services. You're all welcome to join us for services. And then at the end of the services, I'd shake their hands and escort them down to the outside the door and say, you guys all have a great day.
That sounds mean.
You want to say anything else about that?
No, they're human beings made in the image of God. I'm going to respect them. Mm-hmm. And I'm.
But how are you going to help them?
It's not my job.
Well, they're human beings.
Isn't the church's job to take care of the?
If they have a particular need, but they just showed up, and I don't know what their needs are.
They don't have a home.
Yeah.
They don't have any work.
Yeah.
They don't have a place even to sleep that night.
Yeah, they're human beings made in the image of God, and it's their job to figure it out.
That doesn't seem to be how everybody else is looking at this. Why are you looking at it that way?
Well, because I'm biblical.
It doesn't seem like you're very loving, though.
That's
Pastor.
not the Good Samaritan did.
Right? Yeah.
Right. And if any of them have bones sticking out, I'd be glad to give them a ride down to the hospital.
Yep.
Right.
And I'll call Dr. Story. If that's the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan is he's beat up on the side of the road, dying, left for dead. And if any of them have that kind of medical condition, I'd be glad to do that. What I would encourage. I mean, obviously, I'd encourage my people to keep doing what we always do. Go to work. Be creative. Be industrious. Take care of your families. Yep. Practice hospitality. Yep. Now, I think there are times when.
How was what you doing practicing hospitality?
I invited them into church and welcomed them.
Okay.
Shook their hands, tried to get to know their names. And, I'd probably point them to, here's maybe different job opportunities around town. If you need a place to, there's just some campgrounds for places to stay temporarily. Here are some hotels around the town. I might even make an announcement at church and saying, hey, if y'all need work, help at work, and in your businesses, if you all have any room for practicing hospitality, there's some folks in town, new to town, and look for them, get a chance to meet them, and if you have an opportunity to serve them, that would be great. Mm-hmm. But the thing that we should not do is panic.
Yeah.
You should recognize that unless there's an emergency, it's on fire, there's a bone sticking out, that kind of emergency, Good Samaritan emergency. Mm-hmm. The best way you are the most help to the world is keep doing what you've been assigned to do.
Yeah.
Go to work. Mm-hmm. Work hard.
Feed your family.
Feed your family.
Yep.
Work so hard that you have a little extra to share. Mm-hmm. And share as you're able. Mm-hmm. The panic response actually creates people who are less ready to help long term. Long term, the best way to help the maximum number of people is for everybody to go to work every day.
That's right. Yep.
And do their chores, serve their families, love your wife, take care of your children, discipline your children, raise them up in the nurture and admonition of the Lord. Make sure they can go to school.
So then,
and then out of the abundance
Yes.
is where you serve.
But if everybody starts scrambling, what you end up with is no one actually has extra to share.
so Pastor, you're actually hitting at something here. So you're actually holding. Okay, so there's a couple things. We can't fix the border. We don't have the ability to fix it. There's nothing we can physically do this. So we don't have any authority over that.
Right.
We can hope that the people that we put in political office, ask them, hey, listen, get rid of some of this what is it?
Regulation?
Regulation so that people can create more wealth, right?
Get back to work.
Get back to
easier.
work. But that's even a harder problem
Right.
for us to even try. Well, we're a little closer to that, but it's still in the distance. But you're actually holding the human being that is decided to come over here, to bring their family over here. You're holding them to a particular standard as well.
I don't want to treat them like children.
That's right.
I'm not going to treat them like they're subhuman. Like I know that they're looking for work.
Right.
So I'm going to trust that they came here. They're so industrious, they got here.
Right.
So I think they're industrious enough to find work.
Right.
I'm going to interrupt real quick.
Okay.
Because we got to get to this ad, and then I got some. I'm going to put my
I still think
deacon
Pastor
hat
Toby
on.
is so
I'm going to
cold.
put my deacon hat on. You want me to read this out, or you got
Go
it?
ahead.
Today's culture shifts like sand, but New St. Andrews College is established on Christ, the immovable rock. It's a premier institution that forges evangelical leaders who don't fear or hate the world. Guided by God's word, they take the world back because they're equipped with the genius of classical liberal arts and God-honoring wisdom, thanks to a faculty dedicated to academic rigor and to God's kingdom. Find out more at nsa.edu.
So I served as a deacon under Pastor Toby's leadership at Trinity and
Actually, it's at
Trinity and
King's
King's Cross. And the deacons have actually put a lot of thought into this too, in relationship to having discussions with the elders over the course of, I don't know, we've
Years.
talked a lot,
Yeah,
years, something
decades.
on this. Read lots of books on this. And one of the things that the church has done very poorly is actually serve the poor poorly.
Right.
Explain that.
We've been toxic in how we've been charitable.
Right.
And
There's a
me
great
an
book called Toxic Charity.
Yeah.
There's another great book called When Helping Hurts.
Yep.
Yeah. Give me an example of what you mean by that.
And so, well, the point of what Toby's illustrating is like, if there's an emergency, then you do your best to step in and help with what you have, where you're at, bones broken, stuff like that.
Hurricane, house on fire.
Yeah, right,
car
right.
accident.
But what the poor in America want you to do, or I'd say the homeless, kind of the not those who are in abject poverty in America. There are some people. There's I'd say 0.01% of Americans are actually in abject poverty.
Right.
But the poor who come and solicit the church help, what they want is more dependency. What they want is more, and so how
And
we respond.
and they're asking us to treat them subhuman.
Subhuman.
yeah, subhuman.
But what they go ahead.
And so so a good example of this is don't fund their electricity bill. That's
But they
that's
don't
a hard
have power,
thing.
Gabe.
That's a hard thing.
They got kids. They
But-
don't have no power. They can't even earn their clothes to go get an interview.
But they're on government subsidies and they're waiting for that paycheck to get more drugs. And so
Or
actually,
not.
the best thing actually most of them are. I mean it's
Well, and part of what he's getting at though is like we're talking about the poor who have 90-inch screens in their living rooms and cell phones and 3 Xboxes and 2 cars.
I remember
That's the kind of poor we're talking about.
Yeah. The poor in America makes $40,000 a year.
And their electricity got turned off.
Right.
And you're like, I think you should sell your big screen TV, sell one of your cars, cancel your phone plan,
Go ahead.
or
Gabe.
stop doing drugs.
and
There's this
and stop doing drugs.
This is Gabe's
there's
day.
this there's this little Christmas program here in town, Christmas for the Kids or something like that, where people who don't have the money to buy their children Christmas presents will sign up. There's like trees all around town. One at North Idaho Athletic Club, one at the mall or whatever, and they just attach. My kid would like this. We don't have the money for this. My kid would like a bike or whatever. Yeah. And so a lot of people donate to it, and then there's a whole day of wrapping presents for all these people, and then a bunch of random people go around and deliver those presents to those who need it. And I remember me and my wife were doing this one year, delivering presents to people, and I'd be going to these houses and knocking on the door, and the kids would be playing Nintendo as I'm passing. I was like, my kids don't even have a Nintendo.
That's a nice 70-inch you got right there.
And you go passing off, and I think some of them were probably legitimate. We don't have the money this year or whatever.
Right.
I would probably say about 95% were just using the program to be able to get more presents.
I'd say it's hard to know, but I think though.
But here's what the point I wanted to get to was the best thing you can do is look at them like humans, like what Toby's talking about. Create a business where you can hire 50 of them. Right.
Or two,
whatever, right?
Right.
But you're able to actually hire and sustain them in their life and to be able to provide for themselves and be a contributor to society.
And when helping hurts, the thing that the authors point out is that the fundamental deficit in human beings is a broken relationships.
That's right.
Broken relationships, fundamentally with God and then with their neighbor.
Yep.
That's what creates human
you just
poverty.
made a little cross. Huh?
Yeah,
See what you did.
human poverty. It's God and it's with people next to them. And so the first thing they need is relationship. And now in that relationship, we don't have to be Gnostics about it. That includes things like they need a place to sleep, they need clothing, they need heat,
dinner
so on.
or whatever.
Yeah. And the bare necessities are things that I think we are happy to provide. But we have to recognize that if we don't fill those, that basic poverty, they're being treated less than human. And that's why, and I would say that is love. It is love to respect the image of God in men and women and look to them and say, well, what are you going to do? I don't want people asking me, what are you going to do about it? Because I'm going to turn around and I'm going to say, well, I'm going to keep doing all the things that God's called me to do because that is good for the world.
And I'm going to encourage you to do the things that God has called you to do.
And if you'd like to ask for a particular thing, feel free, but I don't have an obligation.
Pastor, remember when I was talking about Breonna Taylor a couple weeks back and we were saying that we were looking at things the way the social justice movement wanted us to look at things in the view of race.
Right.
And so because of that, we missed stuff. We missed the fact that the police were acting ungodly in the way that they were doing things.
Right.
And so by the time it gets to Trump, when you got the FBI doing this raid, we missed that this has been going on for a long time because we're reacting the wrong way with the wrong vision. Right. It's like you just did that again for us to say, hold on, take a step back. How is the world made? How's God designed it? And who are the people in charge and responsible for the situation, right? And then let them do the things that they need to do in order to be, and create the space for them to do that.
We said this about the Amtrak strikes. It's in the pressure of necessity that I believe God ordinarily works.
That's right.
It's when a man knows I got to take care of my family, and a woman knows she needs to take care of her kids. It's in those moments that the image of God, I think, shines. Now, not always, and there are real tragic stories, but I think it's not loving them. To keep giving them handouts. It's not loving them to treat them like babies, to treat them like infants.
It's toxic.
It's toxic, and it creates dependency. It creates immaturity and childishness. And instead of that, we should look at them and say, hey, welcome to town.
Yeah. Right.
Glad you're here. You're most welcome here as long as you're a law-abiding citizen. Yeah. And if you have any questions, let me know. The hospital's down that way if you need anything. I know here's a doctor that's real good. I heard that business down there is hiring. There's a campground if you need somewhere to stay. And if you have any real pressing needs, please let me know, and I'd be happy to send an email out to the church.
Man, we got to reimagine how we deal with this problem.
And America has buried the poor in this heavy-handed toxicity.
Right.
And we've exported it in our mission work to other countries.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's why short-term mission works are largely a failure. And that's why a lot of our third world work in other countries is we're doing the same thing.
Another great work
making it worse.
Reformation in Foreign Missions is another good book on that very topic, and says, we should primarily train nationals and send them back.
Yeah.
If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politics.
Should add like a line, if you have migrants.
Treat them like humans.
Treat them like humans.
Oh, that's so good, man.
Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations, the world's largest classical Christian homeschooling community. I'm launching a new podcast, Refining Rhetoric. If you like cross politics or just listen to hear what crazy stuff they're saying today, you will enjoy Refining Rhetoric. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform. I practice the 15 tools of learning by interviewing great guests, looking at current events, and talking about cryptocurrency.
Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
Meet Big Ed. He has a tax-funded taste for children. Big Ed knows that the best grooming starts early. He has a plan for your preschoolers, a plan to gender confuse your grade schoolers. But if you think his grooming stops there, you have not been paying attention. Big Ed wants to liberate your daughters from old-fashioned ideas like, well, you already know. Big Ed has dorm rooms ready for you in prison buildings of learning, and professors standing by dedicated to grooming young adults in doubt and unbelief. After all, he is the gatekeeper of this brave new world, and if you want a job, you'll need to pay him with years of your life for a permission slip. Yeah, whatever. You think David paid Goliath for a certificate in giant management before those two squared off? Did Luther major in theses? Was George Washington summa cum laude in empire repellents, while Jefferson focused on ag with a minor in declarations? When the world needs saving, meaningful vocations abound for those who are truly prepared. And the truth is, despite Marxist advances, this is still America, and Big Ed is still a voluntary opt-in. So don't. Not at any level. Not preschool, not middle school, not college. It isn't complicated. When Big Ed offers you free candy, stay away. You'll thank us later. We know it's crazy, but run with us here. Men and women were created in the image of God. You don't need a government certificate of faux learning for personal validation or permission to work. You were born with divine permission to pursue knowledge and understanding, truth, goodness, and beauty. And at New St. Andrews College, we are committed to helping students do just that, to their fullest potential. In an age dominated by chaos, when learning is on a choke leash controlled by Big Ed and his many strange friends, ours is an education for outlaws, an education for men and women committed to building a beautiful and free society in the ruins of the Western world. When thinking is outlawed, only outlaws will think. Yes, Big Ed hates what we do, but his hatred brings us joy. New St. Andrews College, liberal arts for outlaws, mind, body, and soul.